The rain hammered against the glass walls of the penthouse in Gangnam, Seoul, turning the city lights below into a blurred watercolor painting. Liam Jang stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand, watching the storm as if it could wash away the emptiness that had settled in his chest years ago. At 34, he was the CEO of Jang Holdings, a conglomerate that spanned tech, real estate, and luxury brands across Asia. Forbes called him one of the richest men under 40 in China, but no headline ever captured how alone he felt at the top. That night, he hadn't planned on going to the hotel bar. He was in Seoul for a late-night acquisition meeting that had dragged on until the investors were drunk on soju and ambition. When it finally ended, he needed air, noise, anything to quiet the constant calculations in his head. The bar was dimly lit, filled with soft jazz and the low hum of conversations in Korean, English, and Mandarin. He sat at the counter, loosening his tie, ordering another drink. She was at the other end, nursing a glass of red wine, her dark hair falling over one shoulder. She looked tired but not defeated. The kind of tired that came from chasing dreams in a foreign city. Her name was Arya Kim, though he wouldn't learn that until later. She was 28, a junior art director at an advertising firm in Seoul. Originally from Busan, with a laugh that carried across the room when something genuinely amused her. Their eyes met when the bartender mixed up their drinks. He got her wine, she got his whiskey. She walked over, glass in hand, a playful smile on her lips. "I think this belongs to you," she said in English, her accent soft and melodic. Though I was tempted to keep it. He smiled, something he rarely did genuinely, and they started talking. About nothing at first: the rain, the overpriced drinks, the way Sil felt both futuristic and ancient at once. Then deeper, her love for painting, how she'd moved to the city with nothing but a portfolio and stubborn hope. His admission that he hadn't taken a real vacation in 8 years. She teased him for being too serious. He teased her for believing art could change the world. Hours slipped away. The bar emptied. They were the last ones there, the staff politely hovering. When the rain eased into a drizzle, she said she should go. He offered to call her a car. She hesitated, then said, "Or we could just not go home yet." They ended up in his suite. It wasn't planned, wasn't calculated. It was just two people who, for one night, didn't want to be alone. Clothes fell away slowly, carefully, as if they both understood this was a moment suspended outside their real lives. Her skin was warm against his, her fingers tracing the lines of tension in his shoulders as if she could smooth them out. When it was over, they lay tangled in the sheets, listening to the rain return against the windows. She fell asleep first, her breathing steady against his chest. He watched her for a long time, memorizing the curve of her cheek, the way her hair smelled like jasmine. At dawn, he slipped out of bed, dressed quietly, and left a note on the pillow: "Thank you for the rain." He didn't leave his number. He told himself it was kindness, sparing her the complication of a man like him. In truth, he was afraid of wanting something he didn't know how to keep. Arya woke alone. The note made her smile and ache at the same time. She kept it in her wallet for months, rereading it on hard days. She never learned his full name. He'd introduced himself only as Liam. She didn't know he was the Liam Jang, the one whose face occasionally appeared on business news channels she never watched. Life moved on. She threw herself into work, got promoted, moved into a small apartment in Hongdae filled with canvases and half-finished paintings. 6 weeks later, she missed her period. Then another. The test confirmed what her body already knew. She sat on the bathroom floor and cried, not from fear, but from the overwhelming certainty that she wanted this child, even if she'd have to raise it alone. She never tried to find him. She had no name. No company, no city to start with. Just a memory of a man with kind eyes and a voice that softened when he spoke about his mother's garden back in Shanghai. The years passed quietly. Arya named her daughter Su-ah, meaning beautiful excellence. Su-ah had her mother's smile, and as she grew, her father's sharp jawline and intense dark eyes. Arya painted children's book illustrations for a living now, working from home so she could be with Su-ah every day. They lived simply but happily. Weekend trips to the sea, nights reading stories under blanket forts, mornings filled with laughter and crayon drawings taped to every wall. Liam, meanwhile, became even richer, even more isolated. He dated occasionally models, heiresses, women who understood the rules of his world. But nothing lasted. He told himself he didn't need more. His empire was enough. Yet sometimes, in boardrooms or private jets, he'd remember the scent of jasmine and wonder what became of the woman who'd made him laugh like no one else could. It was Su-ah's 5th birthday when their worlds collided again. Arya had taken her daughter to Lotwell for the day, a rare splurge. Su-ah, in a bright yellow dress, was mesmerized by the indoor ice rink. She pressed her hands against the glass, watching skaters glide by. Arya was taking photos when Su-ah suddenly darted toward a man standing nearby, staring at his phone. "Appa!" Su-ah cried out joyfully, the way children do when they see someone who reminds them of a dream. The man looked down, startled. Liam Jung in Seoul for another deal, dressed in a charcoal suit despite the weekend, froze as a little girl in yellow hugged his leg with complete confidence. Her eyes, his eyes, looked up at him with pure delight. Arya's heart stopped when she turned and saw them. 5 years older but unmistakable. The same man, the same posture, the same quiet intensity. Su-ah was still hugging his leg. "You look like my drawing of Appa," she said matter-of-factly, holding up a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. A crayon sketch of a tall man with dark hair and kind eyes, as if moving too fast might break something fragile. "Hi," he said softly to Su-ah. His voice was exactly as Arya remembered. Arya walked over, her legs trembling. "Su-ah, come here," but Su-ah didn't move. She was staring at Liam with wonder. "Uma, he has your favorite eyes." Liam looked up at Arya then, and recognition hit him like a wave. The woman from the rain, the one he'd never forgotten. His gaze dropped to the child still clinging to him, then back to Arya's face, older now, more beautiful, carrying the quiet strength of someone who'd built a life alone. "Arya," he said, her name a question and a prayer. She nodded, unable to speak. He looked at Su-ah again, really looked. The resemblance wasn't subtle, the shape of her face, the way she tilted her head when curious. It was like staring into a mirror of his own childhood photos. "She's mine?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Arya's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "Yes." The noise of the amusement park faded around them. Liam reached out tentatively, touching Su-ah's hair as if she might vanish. Su-ah, sensing the shift in mood, grew quiet but didn't pull away. "I didn't know," he said to Arya. "I swear I didn't know." "I know," she replied. "I didn't have a way to tell you." He stood slowly, still holding Su-ah's tiny hand in his. "Can we talk?" "Somewhere quiet." They found a cafe inside the park, away from the crowds. Su-ah sat between them, coloring on a placemat, oblivious to the earthquake happening above her head. Liam listened as Arya told him everything. How she'd discovered the pregnancy. How she'd chosen to keep the baby. How hard and how beautiful the years had been. He told her about the note, how he'd regretted not leaving his number every day since. "I thought I was protecting you," he admitted, "from my life, from what being with me would mean. But I was just a coward." Arya looked at him for a long moment. "You're here now." He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "I don't expect anything. I know I don't deserve it. But I want to know her. I want to know you again, if you'll let me." It wasn't simple after that. There were conversations that lasted until dawn. Lawyers and paperwork, the slow process of introducing Liam into Su-ah's life without overwhelming her. The media caught wind eventually. Paparazzi photos of the Billionaire CEO holding a little girl's hand outside an art gallery. But Arya had spent 5 years building armor, and she protected her daughter fiercely. Liam sold his Gangnam penthouse and bought a house in a quieter part of Seoul. Close enough for weekends, but not so close it felt like an invasion. He learned how to braid hair badly, how to make seaweed soup better, how to read the same bedtime story 20 times without losing patience. He sat through Su-ah's kindergarten performances with tears in his eyes no one saw behind his sunglasses. With Arya it was slower. Trust, once broken by absence, takes time to rebuild. But the love had never left, it had just been waiting. One night, months later, after Su-ah was asleep, Arya found Lam in the kitchen of her apartment, attempting to make hot chocolate the way she liked it. "You remembered," she said, watching him add exactly 2 marshmallows. "I remember everything," he replied. She walked over and kissed him. Not like the frantic passion of that rainy night years ago, but something deeper. Earned, chosen real. Years later, when Su-ah was 10, she asked her mother why she'd never been angry at her father for leaving. Arya thought for a moment, then said, "Because sometimes people leave not because they don't love you, but because they don't know how to stay. And your father," he learned, on quiet evenings, the three of them would sit on the balcony of their home overlooking the Han River. Liam would hold Arya's hand while Su-ah painted the sunset, her tongue poking out in concentration. The rain would come sometimes soft and steady, and they'd stay out under the awning listening. Liam no longer felt alone at the top. He'd traded the highest penthouse for a home filled with crayon drawings and laughter, and on those rainy nights he'd pull Arya close and whisper, "Thank you for the rain," because it had brought him everything he never knew he needed.